Hi guys, it's Melanie Packer again. I kind of wanted to get into some of the things that have helped me throughout my healing process. And as I've said before, I am not completely healed by any means. I want to be clear with that. But the cycles and the intensity and the duration of my PTSD has gone down. I can see improvement. I can see hope for my life, and the reason why are these steps that I've kind of been led to, and I'm very grateful for. First off, is the Institute of Healing Arts in Linden, Utah. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for my mom taking me there, actually, because it taught me a lot about how the body is electric, how it has energy that will drop and weaken when we are not in our truth, when we are abused, when we are putting bad things into our bodies. It taught me about muscle testing, which is a tool of measuring that energy loss and finding out what the body needs by the truth or untruth response. It taught me about my personality type. I actually had a couple of books that I wanted to share with you that I got from the Institute of Healing Arts. One was this Please Understand Me Too. This is the Myers and Briggs personality type. And I know it's probably going to be backwards for you guys, but that helped me a lot to kind of see how my brain worked in relation to other people. This personality hacker book is one that I really like that goes along with the Myers and Briggs. And this also helped me because it kind of shows you what your traps are, what you'll do when you get triggered so that you can recognize those triggers. There's also a 16 personalities.com website that I really like to use for getting quicker results for those personality tests. Some other books that I learned about from the Institute of Healing Arts are these boundary books that are really good. There's Boundaries in Marriage, Boundaries in General, Beyond Boundaries. There's several boundaries books that are helpful if you're needing help to figure out what your boundaries are, because that's number one important, is to make sure that you're safe. Make sure that the people that are continuing to take from you are out of your life and that they can't harm you, and set that support system and tell your truth, tell what needs to be told. Another book that I really love is this Remembering Wholeness book by Carol Tuttle. This helped me a lot with healing and seeing kind of what the purpose of my trauma was, and to find that wholeness. And then this book I use very regularly. They also have a flip chart available that I use all the time. This was amazing to me because I had no idea that our bodies talk to us. And I think there's another book called Our Body Talks, or Issues in the Tissues, or something like that I hear is really good too. But there's this whole language that our bodies have that when we're not accessing the trauma in our past and in our subconscious, that it will come out in diseases and pains and sicknesses, and like in my case, the Perthes disease in my hips. And it was interesting to me to look up in here when I was first learning the hips and find out that it meant non-acceptance of physical experiences and not having a good foundation and fear of moving forward, all the things. And maybe you can think that this applies to a lot of situations, but as I've continued to test and try this, I have found it to be very accurate, and it's led me into ways of healing, things that I needed to process. And then on the processing note, there's this book the Artist Way. This one actually has 3 in there, so you can get just the Artist Way or the whole set. But the main thing about this one that I liked is the morning pages, where you just kind of brain dump everything that's in your mind right in the morning, first thing when you wake up, and write 3 whole pages of just whatever comes to your mind without judging yourself. And that's kind of a way of processing that actually helped me a lot. It also talks about going on artist states, and the idea is that we are so full of trauma. I actually wanted to do this as a visual, but if you imagine, your cup being full of all the good things, and then you dump in the trauma that might be miscolored, muddy, and the trauma just fills up that cup. And every time you try to put something else in that's good, it just doesn't go anymore. It just fills out. And sometimes that heavy mud will even push out the good water. And we kind of lose our ability to be creative and to have joy in this life. And so processing is essential. You have to keep doing it. It's possible that it won't ever be done in this life. In the Institute of Healing Arts, I learned about a 4-step processing technique that really helped me a lot. It included neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. And what you would do is you would muscle test the age of the trauma that is most affecting you, the people that were involved, or it might just come to your mind. And then you'd go through an emotions list, or bring up the emotions that you were feeling, and then put them in a shape and a color. And these shapes and colors actually will be containers for that feeling, so that it doesn't have to be stuck in your body. And once it is removed from the mind and put out into the world, it can be just kind of like analyzed and set aside, and maybe remove some of that mud from the cup. And then after that, you would do scripts to imagine yourself talking to the people who need to be addressed. And sometimes this needs to be literal. Sometimes you need to think about what actually needs to be said. And sometimes it just needs to be written, or maybe you just need to talk to a chair. But oftentimes we can just do it in our minds. But the anger needs to come out. The anger needs to match the intensity of the thing that happened. Otherwise it won't leave. Then the last step is to bring in a higher power. And for me, that's Jesus Christ. He comes in and he'll take all these shapes and colors and he'll repolarize them and turn them into positive energy. And this is what you imagine in your mind. I've had some fear myself, but I've mostly heard this from other people, that they're so afraid of burdening the Savior or burdening God with these things. And one of my friends told me to think of it this way, to think about like a universal toilet. Nobody thinks about what goes in the toilet. You just leave it in there and you flush and it goes, somewhere. And some great people take care of that for us. But yeah, that was really helpful for me. And I've used processing a lot in my life. I also learned about EFT around this time. And EFT is the emotional freedom technique, and it's tapping. Tapping is pretty incredible. You can use it a lot on yourself, and it's very beneficial when somebody else does it for you. It was very surprising to me how much I released with a session from somebody else tapping on my body, and you can look up videos on that. But there are also other processing techniques. I know that there's the lifespan integration. EMDR is helpful, but a lot of times just these simple talk therapies aren't the most helpful for people who've been through trauma like me. If you can talk about it, that's very helpful. But when you're trying to reach the deep subconscious stuff, you really need one of these processing tools. And anyways, I'm thankful for these tools that I've had and that people have established before me. And